Hello, everyone. Good evening or good morning if you're on the other side of the world. Welcome to Gita. Hello, Stacy, Kevin, Elaine, Edward, Lilia, Bradley, Jens, and Pei. Nice to see you all. And hello to Bhante Suddhāso. Thank you for teaching us always. And I hope you had a good day in meditation, practicing the teachings of the Buddha and with the instructions that Bhante gave this morning and this afternoon. Elaine says, thank you for responding during the 2:30 meeting. I will do as instructed and keep repeating that this is not me, not mine, until I can feel this truth. Great, great. Very good aspiration. And without further ado, I'll pass it on to Bhante.
All right, so we'll start the evening with chanting the Retina Sutta as we have usually been doing these days. So I believe there's the link posted.
I forgot to put the link, but I will put it right now.
We'll post the link in just a moment.
All right, one moment. Here it is. Okay.
So start with chanting Namo Tassa 3 times and then chant the Retina Sutta together. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Yani Bhutani Samagatani Bhummani Vayani Vantaleke. Sabe Bhuta Sumana Bhavantu Atopi Saka Chasunantu Bhasitam. Tasmahi Bhutani Sameta Sabe Metam Karota Manusiya Pajaya. Devacharato Chaharanti Evaling Tasmahi Nera Kata Pamata. Yan kinchivitam etava urangva sagesu ayam ratanam panitam. Nano samangati tathagatena idampi buddhe ratanam panitam. Etena sachena suvati hotu. Kayam viragam amatam panitam yadajjaga sakyam muni samahito. Natena dhammena samati kinchi idampi dhamme ratanam panitam. Etena sachena suvati hotu. Yang Buddha Seto Parivarnayi Suching Samadhimanan Tarikanyamahu. Samadhinatena Samona Vijjati Dampi Dhamme Ratanam Panitam. Etena Sachena Suvati Hotu. Ye Bungala Tasatam Pasata Chatari Edhani Yogani Honti. Te Dakineya Sugata Sasavaka Te Sudinani Mahapalani. Idampi Sanghe Ratanam Panitam Etena Sachena Subati Hotu. Yeso payota manasa dalhena dikamino gotamasa sanamhi. Te pati pata matam vigaiha ladhyamutanim buddhim punchamana. Idampi sanghe ratanam panitam Gedena sachena suvati hotu Yatinda kilo pataving sito siya chatum vivate vyasampagampiyo Tatupamang sammurisam vadami yo arya satchani avecha passati Idampi sanghe ratanam panitam Gedena sachena suvati hotu Ye arya satchani vibhavayanti gambhira panyena sudesitani Kinchapi te honti pusapamata na te bhavanga tamanga diyanti Idampi sanghe ratanam panitam Gedena sachena suvati hotu Sahava sadasana sampadaya Daya sudhamma jahita bhavanti Sakaya deti vichike chitancha Silabbatang vapi yadati kinchi Chatuhapaye hicha vipamuto Chachabhitanani avambo katum Idampi sanghe ratanam panitam Gedena sachena suvati hotu Kinchapi sokam mankaroti papakam Kayena vacha uracheta sava Avambo sota sapatichadaya Avambata dittapada sahuta Idampi sanghe ratanam panitam Gedena sachena suvati hotu Vanapagumbe yatha pusitange Yamhanamase patamasming imhe Tatupamang dhammavaranga desayi Nibbanagaming paramang hitaya Idampi buddhe ratanam panitam Gedena sachena suvati hotu Varo varanyo varado varaharo Anutaro dhammavaranga desayi Idampi buddhe ratanam panitam Gedena sachena suvati hotu Kinam puranam navam nati sambhavam Virata citta yatike bhavasmi Tekina vidha vibrodhin chanda Nibbhanti dhira yatayam paripo Idampi sanghe ratanam panitam Gedena sachena suvati hotu Yani bhutani samagatani Bhummani vayani vantaleke Tathagatam deva manusabhujitam Buddham namasama suvati hotu Yani bhutani samagatani Bhummani vayani vantaleke Tathagatam deva manusabhujitam Dhammam namasama suvati hotu Yani bhutani samagatani Bhummani vayani vantaleke Tathagatam deva manusabhujitam Sangham namasama suvati hotu Etena sacha vanjena dukavo pasamentu te Etena sacha vanjena bhayavo pasamentu te Etena sacha vanjena rogavo pasamentu te So please get in meditation posture. That means the full lotus position. Though you're also welcome to sit in an easier posture if you are physically incapable of sitting in the lotus position. Though all things are impermanent, so if you work at it persistently and with dedication, then in a year or two, you might find you're actually capable of sitting in the full lotus position. Bodies are malleable, they're changeable, just like the mind. So with practice and effort, most people can sit lotus. It just takes time and persistence and diligence. Ayasoma is rolling her eyes, of course. So you can expect that about 50% of the meditation sessions will start with Bhante Suddhāso recommending the full lotus position and Ayasoma rolling her eyes.
We're having a great.
We're also apparently slowly inventing our own language. So once you're settled into the full lotus position, take the time to rock side to side till you're evenly balanced on your sitting bones. Tilt your pelvis forward a bit. You can kind of inch your knees forward to help pull the pelvis forward so that the spine can sit fully upright. Bringing the shoulders back so that the chest is very open and spacious. Letting the head rest evenly on top of the spine with the chin parallel to the floor or tilted slightly forward. And your hands resting gently in your lap. Start by taking a few deep breaths. With each breath, letting the body and mind relax. And gently let the breath return to its natural rhythm. And start by settling attention in the body. Collecting the mind together by holding it steady in the body. Feeling the whole body with clarity and serenity. And when you feel the mind is sufficiently stable and alert, you can bring attention to feeling the mind itself, directing clear awareness to knowing the state of the mind in each moment. And as you observe the states of mind, recognize that they're impermanent. They're constantly changing, every moment arising and immediately ceasing, appearing and vanishing instantly. As we watch the states of mind coming and going, we recognize that they do not control us, they do not define us. They're just things that come and go. So we recognize that the states of mind are impersonal. They're not me, they're not mine, they don't control or define me. Be careful not to get swept up in the thoughts, not to get swept up in the emotions, not to get swept up in the contents of mind, but just to watch as it comes and goes, recognizing its impermanence, its empty nature. Like meaningless illusions flickering before the mind. Nothing to hold on to, nothing to like or dislike. You just watch as it comes and goes. Relax your posture. Do a little stretching if you wish. Just take a moment to enjoy the peacefulness of the mind.
Thank you, Bhante, for guiding us in meditation. And hello to some new friends who have logged in a while. Welcome to Sally, Ayla, Marielle, Gabriella, David, and Dita. Sally is saying in the sutta, the quote, Bhikkhu chitta chittanupasi viharati. What does viharati mean here?
Viharati literally means to live. So the literal meaning of the word means a place where you live, but it's also used in a more abstract sense to mean spend time doing this. So like spend time regarding the mind on its own terms. So that's the use of the word viharati in this case. So we see this word viharati used in this more general way of spending time doing something. We see this in a number of places in the suttas.
Okay, that was the only question.
Okay. So we spent the day doing Chittanupassana in theory. In actuality, I don't know what you've been doing, but I hope that's what you've been doing. So we have been going through the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta, looking at the different meditation exercises that the Buddha offers to us in this sutta and trying them out. So spending time practicing with these methods that the Buddha offers us. And today was the day for Chittanupassana, so mindfulness of the mind, investigation of the mind. This is a practice which is relatively free form. So mindfulness of the body, there's much more detailed instructions and many different ways of practicing with mindfulness of the body. With mindfulness of the mind, as given in the sutta, it's much more open to personal experience, personal investigation. Recognizing what is the condition of the mind in each moment. What is the state of the mind in each moment? And seeing that the conditions of mind, the states of mind are constantly changing. They're not stable, they're not permanent, they're not solid, they're constantly changing. Recognizing that they're conditional. They depend upon the conditions that we've created in the past, the conditions that we're experiencing now. And recognizing that the conditions of mind, the states of mind, the qualities of mind are impersonal. They're not who we are. They're just things which come and go dependent upon causes and conditions. So in this way, we can start to recognize the nature of the mind itself and recognize that the mind is something which we normally identify as me. But when we closely watch it moment by moment, there's no me to be found. There's merely a succession of mind states, a succession of mind conditions, a succession of mind phenomena. And these phenomena do not control us or define us because we can observe them without being influenced by them. We can observe them without being affected by them. And also we recognize their lack of persistence. There are moments when the mind is in one condition and moments when it's in another condition. So our sense of self-identity, therefore, does not need to be connected to states of mind. And in fact, it's quite silly for it to be connected to states of mind. The other day, Ayasama referenced the Asuttava Sutta, which we found the sutta reference for that. I don't remember exactly where, but I remember it's in the Nidana Samyutta. I think 1261 or something. I don't recall exactly. And in the Asuttava Sutta, the Buddha says the unlearned ordinary person can recognize that the body is not who they are, but then they think the mind is who they are. And the Buddha said that this is absolutely absurd, that it actually makes more sense to think your body is who you are because your body actually seems to be relatively stable. Of course, it's not, but it seems relatively stable. Whereas the mind is so obviously unstable. It's so obviously impermanent. It's so obviously constantly changing. So when we start to pay close attention to the mind, to the states and characteristics and qualities of the mind, then this is something that becomes immediately apparent. It's that the mind is constantly changing. It's not stable for even a moment. Its characteristics and qualities are not the same moment by moment. They're always changing. So recognizing that, then we can start to get a little bit of distance from it. We stop getting so wrapped up in the contents of the mind. We stop getting so wrapped up in the qualities of the mind moment by moment. And also we recognize that that's not who we are, which means it has no power over us. And that also means that we don't need to think of ourselves in terms of whatever happens to be appearing before the mind. We don't need to think of ourselves in terms of the qualities and characteristics of the mind. And also we recognize that we have some power to direct the future conditions of mind. We have some power to influence and shape the mind. So this is part of the good news. The good news about the mind being unstable and impermanent is that that means we have the ability to change it, the ability to shape it, the ability to direct it. And that's one of the major things that we're doing in Buddhist practice. In fact, you might say it's the only thing we're doing in Buddhist practice, is we're learning how to shape the mind. We're learning how to shape the mind so that it can be more wise, more gentle, more compassionate, more peaceful. We're shaping the mind in this way. So I've already spoken a fair amount this morning and a bit this afternoon and this evening about this practice. So I'd like at this time to open up if you have any questions or comments or reflections on your day meditating with this method. Please go ahead and enter them in the live chat. So I'd like to know how it went for you today, what your experience was like. If there's anything that you want more clarification on, please go ahead and enter in your comments, and I'll address them as best I can.
Great, thank you, Bhante. We have a few questions that popped up. So Gabriela is asking, so my trouble with Chittanupassana is that the mind goes very fast. How do we get it to slow down?
Stop trying to slow it down. What a phenomenal waste of time. If it's going fast, just be aware that it's going fast. So in the section on Chittanupassana, did you see anywhere where the Buddha says, monks, force your mind to go slowly? No, it's not in there. If the Buddha had mentioned the speed of the mind, which he doesn't, if he had mentioned it, he would have said, know a fast mind as a fast mind and know a slow mind as a slow mind. That would have fit into the section. He does not say, try to force your fast mind to be slow. He doesn't say that. So I don't think that's the instruction here. If your mind is fast, know that it's fast. And watch the show without getting involved in it. Okay?
Sadhu. And Denise says, when experiencing strong fear, I use this Satipatthana to get a handle on the mental suffering and then apply mindfulness of the body to deal with the physical effects of fear. When doing that, the fear seems so much more intense, but at the same time, it vanishes much quicker. Is this a correct approach?
Yeah, I fully approve. And Ayasoma's giving the thumbs up and some very vigorous whole body nodding. So this is one of the amazing things about Italians is the way they get their entire body involved in anything. So like people like me, so I'm an American, a WASP background American. When we nod, it's just like, yeah. Like you see, only the head moves. Not, when an Italian nods, it's like the whole body gets involved.
Oh, yeah, that's how. Now I understand why whenever I see the videos where I'm moving, there's like a lot of movement. All right. And Marielle says, according to Buddhism, where does our capacity to love come from? If neither the mind or the body are one or continual, is there a location where love resides?
What a peculiar question.
Right? Very interesting.
So we have the capacity to have any state of mind, to have any emotion, to make any choice. So love is a choice. We choose to love. It's also, to some extent, the product of past conditions that we've created. So it doesn't need to have a physical location. In fact, I've never once thought of it as having a physical location. This might be something for you to explore. What does love feel like? Is there a place where love is? You can ask yourself, where is love? Try it out, see what happens.
Gabriella says, metta, that kind of love, is not dependent upon metta, that kind of love, is not dependent upon a bodily or mental experience.
Do I agree with that? I would agree that metta is not dependent upon a bodily experience, but I would say that metta is a mental experience.
Yeah, I would say too.
Okay, this is great. Apparently Ayasoma approves of my answers this evening.
Not that it matters much. Masum says, good evening, Bhante, Aya, and everyone. Hello, Masum.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yes.
Well, not see you, but good to hear that you're joining in anyway.
Yeah. Well, whenever I read you, I see you.
Mm-hmm.
How do we differentiate between our unstable, impermanent mind and thoughts that help protect ourselves from danger or injustice? Very good question.
Yeah, so the thoughts are also impermanent. They're also impersonal. But nonetheless, we can differentiate between wholesome thoughts and unwholesome thoughts. And we make an effort to cultivate and nourish wholesome thoughts and to let go of and diminish unwholesome thoughts. So just because something is impermanent and impersonal doesn't mean that it's outside of our control entirely. Nor does it mean that we should not make an effort to direct the mind and shape the mind properly. We should make an effort to shape the mind towards the wholesome. But we also recognize that whatever current state of mind is present is not permanent. And also that it doesn't control us or define us. And so we always have the ability to change, to grow, to improve, to develop. We also have the ability to backslide and devolve, but that's what we're trying not to do. Instead, we're trying to improve, to become better over time. And that's only possible because the states of mind that we're currently experiencing are impermanent and impersonal. Otherwise, we would be forever frozen in our current state, which would be horrible. Instead, we have the capacity to become better. So yeah, if you notice there are good, wholesome thoughts and emotions and states of mind, then nourish that, develop that, encourage that. The Buddha praises this over and over throughout the suttas, the development and maintenance and perfection of wholesome mind states, attitudes, and thoughts.
And Sally says, does Chittanupassana sitting means watching the wandering thoughts happening in the whole sitting? Since there is no fixed object that the mind can lean on, when practicing samadhi, wandering thoughts keep producing since mind stays with the same object.
Mindfulness of mind does not necessarily mean watching wandering thoughts. So if you notice the way the Buddha defines it in the suttas, he's more talking about being aware of the condition of mind, the state of the mind in each moment. So thoughts are mind objects. And of course, one should also be aware of mind objects. But it's quite difficult or dangerous with watching wandering thoughts. It's quite difficult to keep ourselves from getting wrapped up in them. So we have to be really careful with that we don't start participating in them. And again, really try to be aware of the state of the mind, the characteristics of the mind when practicing Chittanupassana. So not just watching the wandering thoughts, but rather trying to notice, what does the mind feel like? What does it feel like when the mind is scattered and wandering? Rather than fixating on what it's wandering around after, instead notice what it feels like when it's wandering and scattered. And yeah, so when the mind is in samadhi, you'll have less wandering thoughts. That's true. In fact, when the mind is fully in samadhi, you'll have no wandering thoughts at all. So in that case, you just know what it feels like when the mind is in samadhi. As the Buddha said in the suttas, know a concentrated mind as a concentrated mind. So know a mind with samadhi as a mind with samadhi. So that doesn't in any way inhibit you from doing Chittanupassana. If there's no wandering thoughts, then know what it feels like when the mind doesn't have wandering thoughts. Because that is the way it's going to be sometimes. Hopefully more often than not. Okay?
And Bradley is asking, when the mind is relatively clear, is observing that the mind relatively clear on track with this meditation? Mm-hmm. Or should we be digging up mind states?
Be aware of whatever condition the mind is in. Know the condition the mind is in. So if the mind is clear, then know that the mind is clear. Yeah. You don't need to make a mess where there's no mess, just so that you can be mindful of a mess.
That was funny. I just pictured an enlightened being like creating suffering just to do Chittanupassana. And Marielle said, you mentioned this morning that our bodies are inside our minds. Could you further touch upon this, please?
Yeah, so one of the most direct ways of getting in touch with this idea is to recognize that all your physical senses are perceived through the mind. So what is body? Body is sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. How are we aware of those things? Through the mind. So sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch are objects in the mind. So everything that we think of as the body is a mental object. Ayasoma is doing her whole body nodding thing again. So apparently she likes this answer. So everything we think of as the body is mental objects, mind objects that we label as physical, but they're not actually physical, they're mental objects. So this is the case with everything that we think of as physical. It's all just mind objects. Everything is mind. This is one way of talking, of course. And so our entire experience is mental. We talk about the physical world as though it's some real thing, but we've actually never experienced it once in our entire life. We've never experienced it in any lifetime, actually. We've never once touched the physical world, not a single time. We've only ever experienced mental objects. That's it. Okay?
Anyway, I was just experiencing the masuka, hence my body. Gesticulation approves. Gabriela says, no. Majjhima Nikaya, literally, no. Majjhima Nikaya 20 shows to slow the fermentations of mental fabrications. I really have a lot of difficulties with removing negative mind states. So how do I remove them so the thoughts don't become words or actions that are unskillful? Hispanics do that too. I talk with my whole body.
Yeah, I've come to realize that Italian culture and Latina culture are extremely similar in many ways. Anyway, so as to your statement, yeah, it's true. The Vitakkasanthana Sutta gives 5 very practical ways of eliminating unwanted or unwholesome thoughts from the mind. And those are great techniques. And it's one of my favorite suttas, and I talk about it quite often because it's very practical and it's very useful, and it gives several different options. So it's a really great sutta. And that's one way of practicing. Another way of practicing is when the mind is scattered and distracted, just watch, observe the feeling of the scattered, distracted mind. And actually what you'll notice there, well, first off, you get a better understanding of the nature of mind, which is cultivating your wisdom faculty. But also what you'll notice is that little bit of distance of observing the wandering, scattered mind rather than participating in it, that little bit of distance means that it starts to settle down on its own. The mind starts to settle down just because we're not fueling its wandering. Okay.
And Ella is asking, should we be able to identify the mind itself, or seeing only its activity is enough?
You should know the whole mind as it is. You should know whatever there is of the mind. You should know that. Okay.
And Sally says, how to observe the mind thoughts in a peaceful stage when the thoughts drifting in the past and the future. I felt a little bit agitated because I saw mind is not stable at all.
Good, because the mind is in fact not stable at all. That's true. Yeah, so again, come back to the feeling of the mind. Don't get caught up in chasing the thoughts. Don't get caught up in joining with the thoughts. Just keep coming back to observing the feeling of the mind. What does the mind feel like in this moment? That's basically what this practice is. Chittanupassana is just observing, what does the mind feel like right now? What does it feel like right now? What does it feel like right now? Okay.
And Kevin is kindly reminding everyone to practice generosity. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Bless your heart, Kevin, for keeping us alive, and all of you for supporting the monastery. So if you wish to do so, you can go on buddhistinsights.com/donate. And Marielle is saying, there's first Sally. When there is no obvious thoughts, what should we observe? Feel the feeling of just observing?
Sure, yeah. So feel the mind. The mind is not thoughts. Thoughts are thoughts. The mind is the mind. Feel the mind. Whether there's thoughts or not, you can still feel the mind. Okay?
And Marielle is saying, is consciousness located in our minds? Is the mind a gate through which we experience consciousness? Is the universal consciousness something both inside and outside everyone?
Okay, that's 3 questions. Can you start with the first one again, please?
Is consciousness located in our minds?
Do you want to answer this one?
No.
Okay. Is consciousness located in the mind? I guess technically yes. But something about this question seems unanswerable. Yeah. I also feel like it's kind of missing the point. So what is consciousness? Look at it, feel it. What does it feel like to be conscious of something, to be aware of something? What does consciousness feel like? So that's an aspect of mind. That's probably what I would say rather than it's in the mind. I would say it's an aspect of mind. Yeah. What was the second question?
Is the mind a gate through which we experience consciousness?
I probably wouldn't say that. No. Yeah, I wouldn't say that.
Is the universal consciousness something both inside and outside everyone?
It depends what you mean by universal consciousness. So if by one way which I sometimes relate to consciousness is through the six elements. And the sixth element is the consciousness element, which seems to be referring to a quality of the natural world, which every being partakes of to some extent. Just as there's a certain amount of water in the universe, and every body has a certain amount of that water in it. In the same way, consciousness is an aspect of the universe, and every being has a certain amount of consciousness. Sometimes I relate to it through that lens, which is useful to some degree. So it's recognizing consciousness as being a aspect of the natural world, a characteristic of the natural world that's present in some things and not present in others. So, for example, in Buddhism, insentient objects such as plants and stones and so on are not considered to have consciousness. It's not present in them. But it is present in animals and humans and spirits and so on. But approaching it as an element of the natural world, well, it's just that there is this element of consciousness which is the same for all beings. And each one of us has some piece of consciousness, some element of consciousness which allows us to be aware of things. But there is a certain danger in getting too caught up in philosophizing about these things and losing touch with the point of the Dhamma, which is to come to a deep experiential understanding of how we create our own dukkha. So the problem is that we identify as consciousness. We think, I am this consciousness. I am the one who is conscious of that. And when we think in those terms, then we trap ourselves in a little bubble of reality, a little fragment of reality. So instead, it's recognizing consciousness as being a conditional phenomenon which arises based on causes and conditions and changes and ceases. But it's something which is not who we are. It's just this experience of I am conscious of that, which arises when the conditions are right for that experience to arise. And it's something which ceases when those conditions are different. So I really encourage you instead to try to feel consciousness rather than asking, where is it? Or is it inside or outside? Is it similar for me as for others? Instead of getting caught up in these ideas, try to feel it. What does consciousness feel like? And you might find that useful. You might find that of benefit. Okay.
And Masum says, thank you. It would be indeed horrible to be stuck in permanent thoughts. Impermanence is a blessing. So thoughts that protect us from danger and injustice are often unwholesome. It is a question to ponder upon in my next meditation. And Bradley says, I wonder if they're unwholesome. Do they truly protect us?
Thank you, Bradley. That's a good point.
And Masum says, therein lies the contradiction. It seems that victims of oppression are also victims of actual conditions, plus mental states that protect them from further oppression. It's interesting. Well, we can probably talk about this further when this week, I think. In a couple of days, we're talking about obsessive thoughts and traumatic.
Yeah, this is a great question for Ayasoma to answer.
Why me? Well, I will be sharing thoughts that in that occasion, but anyway. Kevin says, I have experienced a very strange phenomena a few times wherein the observer of the mind became another observer of that observer, then of that one of that one, and on and on. A bit freaky.
Cool.
Yeah, sounds cool. Great. You're having a great.
Yeah, this is one of the fun things that can happen in Buddhist meditation is every now and then our perspective on reality shifts dramatically in some unexpected way. And when that happens, you just go along for the ride. It can be quite interesting.
And Sally says, can we learn Majjhima Nikaya 20 in the future sutta study?
Yeah, I mean, it's a sutta which I go over periodically. But yeah, we can add it to the list.
So, yes.
Yeah.
And Kam is asking, Bhante, feeling the mind is so profound. But for me, I don't know how to do it. How do I know if/when I feel my mind?
You're feeling it right now, Kam. You're feeling it right now. You're maybe just not paying much attention to it, but you're always feeling your mind. You just turn attention to the mind. That's all. Pay more attention to it. You're already feeling it. You just need to make it your primary object of attention. Okay?
And Bradley says, what is the mind? LOL. To clarify, Buddhist consciousness is not the same as how people use consciousness to mean soul or self, right?
Correct. Yeah, consciousness does not mean soul. Consciousness is just awareness. Yeah.
And Sally says, is it normal that I did see the mind drifted past and future mostly, but what haven't been done, etc.? Greed type can be identified just in Chittanupassana.
Yeah. Yeah, when the mind is wandering, then you'll see that it wanders. When the mind is scattered, you'll see that it's scattered. Just don't get caught up in that wandering, but just keep coming back to observing the feeling of the mind.
And Sally also adds, does feeling the mind more abstract than identifying the mind content? Just the feeling, no need word to describe?
Yeah.
Very zen answers this evening, Bhante. All right, well, that was the last question. Unless another one appears. 3, 2, 1.5. There you go. And Kevin says, don't I recall Bhante Suddhāso taking the stance that consciousness is what takes rebirth?
You'll have to ask him about that. Yeah.
A very easy way out.
Yeah, it's quite easy. When you ask me, did somebody else say something? It's like, well, I don't know. Ask them what they said.
And Gabriella says, when I do Chittanupassana, I notice that Vedana is not as strong than in Kayanupassana. Is that normal?
Depends on the person. It's going to be normal for some people and not for others. It depends on the person. Some people relate very strongly to their mind and feel very strong reactions with their mind. And other people, they relate more through their body and feel stronger reactions through their body. So it depends on the person.
And Bradley says, today's practice seems pretty straightforward, but very deep in actuality.
Yeah.
Yep. We both agreed. All right. Well, that's all for today then. Oh, no, it's not. Sally says, what's the relation between observing mind and body at the same time? And body is the mind.
Body as the mind? What?
What's the relation between observing the mind and body at the same time and body in the mind?
Well, eventually, as your practice develops, you come to a point where you recognize that there is no separation between body and mind. And then this distinction just falls away on its own.
Right. And I will be sharing my own practice on Monday evening, since some people have asked about that earlier this week. So this is one of my favorite practices. So I'll share my thoughts then. And tomorrow, on the other hand, Bhante will be conducting the last Daylong on the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So it will be a pretty exciting day, full of great meditation instructions. Also, Sutta study tomorrow morning will be quite interesting. So tune in at 8:30 a.m. New York City time for Sutta study for the last part of the Sutta, the Satipatthāna. And then at 2:30 p.m. for guided meditation, and then 7:30 p.m. For the last thing. At 8 a.m., Bradley. Yes, thank you for correcting me. We're all exhausted for whatever reason, even though it's 8:42. We're all ready to go to bed. So it's 8 a.m. New York City time. See you tomorrow. Oh, Sally says, I was so moved today. Sadhu.
Great.
Wonderful. Well, I'm happy you've had a great time today, and hopefully tomorrow will be even better. Have a great